Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for tuning in to this Red Kingdom Media production, bringing you raw, authentic Chiefs coverage. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on your team. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Welcome to this edition of the Home of the Chiefs podcast, where the Chiefs are our home. I am your host, Clinton Petrie, joined as always with my co-host, Shannon Brush. How are you this afternoon for this live edition of the Home of the Chiefs podcast?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to get back into it because it's the new year.
That's right. We are officially in 2024. The game that we were previously attending was a couple hours before. So this is kind of a new feeling within the NFL of the season still going on as we're getting into the new year, which is 2024. Used to kind of be the season was completely done, and then the second the new year began, it's postseason time. But we're not. We have one more game. The Chiefs' perspective doesn't mean much, but in terms of setting up some scenarios for the playoffs, still very much important in the conversation. So to start us off, here's our topics for today. We got unfortunately the silver and black Christmas. The Raiders came in and beat the Chiefs, and we were there. We talked about how exciting that game should have been. So we'll go over how much it unfortunately wasn't in this case. But we got over it because it was a quick turnaround. Crown the new year. The Chiefs bounced back on New Year's Eve against the Bengals, winning the AFC West for the 8th straight time in the Andy Reid era. And we're going to discuss that game with you and talk about how that game made us feel and what that set up for the rest of the season. Put Mahomes on ice. So we already heard earlier this week that Andy Reid is not playing Patrick Mahomes this game completely. If you check the injury reports this week, there's a lot of important names on there. A lot of guys who, if they played this game and got hurt, you'd be really upset not playing. But some of which have some milestones on their contract or their just the stat sheet in general that they'd like to be able to showcase. And finally, we have the dealt a good hand. So the Chiefs are in the wild card. Patrick Mahomes, this hasn't happened a lot. It has happened before in the Andy Reid era, Patrick Mahomes era combined. But the Chiefs are locked into their spot. They can't do anything to go up or down based on winning or losing this game. So the question is, how much of this game is irrelevant?
Really, it doesn't really matter.
So it leads into what do the rest of the games this week and the weekend look like, and we kind of discuss who we're looking at potentially having to play here in the playoffs, and who that matchup could be for a wild card weekend when we will be back in Arrowhead Stadium for that game. So before we go into the Debbie Downer topic of this this podcast, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to us on all of our social media platforms at Red Kingdom Media. Leave us a like, 5 stars, rate, leave us a comment, leave us any questions or anything like that. I've already posted in the live chat for anybody who joins if they got any questions or anything like that, we can discuss that. But if not, we will continue the show as scheduled. So the silver and black Christmas, as I so politely put it, the Raiders came in on Christmas, and frankly, I talked about it after on the post game, and then we held off on stuff throughout the whole week.
Yeah, we took a little break.
Trying to put that game out of our mind, and then it was a portion of my breakdown video that I put out after New Year's, which I can link right here after the fact if anybody wants to go watch that. But it basically boiled down to the two turnovers back to back, and because the offense was in a position to not overcome their self-inflicted wounds again, it led to the upset, and it made sure that the number one seed was out of reach and guaranteed that the Chiefs would be playing on the road at least for some, if not the remainder of the postseason after Wild Card Weekend. So it was painful.
Yeah.
If this was any other year, any other team, they could maybe get away with it and overcome those mistakes. But with the makeup of the team as it was, and the running game wasn't working as much, and the deep passes weren't there, so the Raiders got to play extra aggressive, and it beat them. And the Chiefs this season are wounded, and they're ready to be attacked like that if they come with their best and trying to play a perfect game. So
they can't make any more mistakes. They just can't.
No, if they want to win in this postseason, absolutely, and we'll be a little better, optimistic, better conversation to have in the second game. But I'm trying to give this first game enough of its time, because it still happens.
It happened, and it was frankly embarrassing.
It led to the question of maybe our defense or the offense struggles when it has to play a team a second time. We're about to play the Chargers.
Ooh, yeah.
Not quite the same team with the same makeup. Their coaches are shuffled around. Some players play or not playing the game from either side. But it was all the offense just losing all confidence.
Yeah.
And they were just ready to get beat up, and a lot of pointing the finger and blaming each other again.
Yeah, they looked like you said, they could be attacked. They were the prey. They honestly didn't look like the same team to me that day. It was the same team we saw with the Broncos, and I'm like, what the heck? This is a totally different team than what they should be.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the accountability was lacking, and it was the storyline after the game as well, that the coaches to this point have had enough with this continuous storyline that's happening. Lack of effort, lack of preparation, lack of concentration, whatever it is, they're just not putting it together. And instead of accountability, they're trying to cast blame and embarrassment on others. And I mean, we're not for that. We live in part of the world, part of the country that you work hard for what you do, and you don't flaunt. You're confident in your ability. You don't be over cocky. You don't assume that everything is easy, and you have to do things Sometimes you might not want to get down and dirty, but if your goal is to move forward, then you'll do it.
Yeah, the behind the scenes work that nobody gets to really see.
So
He'll do that, and when nobody's looking.
it didn't happen in this Raiders Christmas game, unfortunately. But we'll see how much of it actually like shapes 2024 now that we're officially here, because the game following that, of course, they'd want to wipe that game completely out of their mind and try to be more positive and optimistic and find something to showcase and root for. But this Chargers game coming up isn't going to be that, because your team isn't,
it's not the
full strength. You're not trying to win that game.
Yeah, you're not trying to win it.
So the first time we're going to see how fired up the team is when the actual playoffs begin. And we would have liked if we'd seen, a 4 to 6 game stretch where they look, at least middle of the pack, not going to mess up, do just enough to squeeze a game out, and don't care if you have to throw the ball 60 times or 10 times to win the game. So we just got little glimpses of that towards the end of the season. Like, they can, and if they attempt it with accuracy, then it's achievable.
Yeah.
But then the team tries too hard and then can't overcome whatever mistakes or penalties or drops or whatever the catastrophic event is. It is too much. So that's all I got to say about the Raiders game. And then we saw the Raiders didn't even bounce back from that momentum and lose their next game. So all that's for naught.
For nothing, yeah.
So
just to say they beat us.
Yeah, and we'll see if their head coach sticks around. But this will be yet another season where an interim coach takes the team to the playoffs or nearly the playoffs, and way better than the head coach who got fired before. So, well, because that's a Spagnuolo disciple, so you could tell that team cared about their defense.
Oh yeah.
So if that team had a semi-decent offense, they might have been able to continue out, but they just, they got to play Grinch for us on Christmas, and that was their season.
Yeah,
that was the highlight. Beating the Chiefs, just like it is for a couple other teams on our schedule, ends up being the high point of their season, because the postseason they do not make.
Yep.
So let's move on to something a little nicer, a little better of a conversation. Let's talk about the victory that occurred on December 31st. That was a game against the Bengals where defense gave up the points right away.
Yeah.
And then they clamped down and didn't allow any more points the rest of the game. And the Chiefs offense made some big chunk play, make sure they didn't turn it over, kick field goal, rinse, repeat that 5 to 6 times. And that was enough to win against a team with a backup quarterback and an offense that was getting smothered by the great Chiefs defense that we've seen all season.
Yeah.
So
that was a good game.
Break it down. How did you feel about that game?
I was nervous at first, just because of what has happened and what we've seen.
And we already had the turnover in the red zone, which,
and that
resulted
was
in
dumb.
a touchdown for the Bengals. So
Yeah.
already we saw like the oh no, was that the mistake that they can't overcome from?
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, it's one of those games. It's gonna be another one. But then they started like our defense was like so good. And they really held the game together, and Butker really held the game. Like he made that one like 50 yarder, and that was like really good. And then after that he was solid, and I'm like, yes, like it's so cool because like a few rows behind us there was a guy for the Bengals, like that was rooting for the Bengals, that was like, kick another field goal, like just do it. But lo and behold, our field goals came to win us the game. So
That's right.
In your face.
He did just enough by himself to beat the Bengals in terms of points.
Yeah, that was so cool. Like his points versus what their touchdown points were, wasn't it like 15?
The Bengals got 17
points,
and Butker made 6 field goals and an extra point, which is 19 points total.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
And if you take away the touchdown, he 18-17, he still beats them.
Yeah, that's insane.
So, and to think that like we're happy about that, like in this season.
Yeah, I know.
Thinking that might be enough to actually win.
Right.
Like if the Chiefs in any other season were doing that, I mean, we were booing.
Yeah.
We were in the crowd.
Yeah, we were like,
we're down 4.
Why are we kicking it?
And the reason that we were upset was because, from my perspective, no matter how great this defense is, eventually they have to get got, right?
Yeah.
Well, this game they didn't. They held on and gave up 0 points.
They actually,
So
they progressed
all
as the
those
game went
field
on.
goals eventually they chipped away. They got within the ring. They got within 1 point. Then they took the lead. Then they went up. Then they went up a full touchdown and 2 points.
Yeah,
just from these field goals. So if the Chiefs can reliably at least get to the red zone, hold the clock for a bit, and either score a touchdown or kick a field goal, that would be huge.
Yeah.
And give the defense all this time to like bring out the tablets and look at what the opposing offenses are doing, and how to stop that, and let Spags have these intense conversations, figure out what they want to do next, like figure out where
the game plan,
figure out how much pressure they need to put on and where it needs to come from. So if the offense could be in that game manager Alex Smith game, like it's one thing to have that specific team and not with Patrick Mahomes and assume that the magic can't last.
Yeah.
But there's like a little bit of relief in that, yeah, maybe Mahomes, the offense, doesn't have it like all game the whole time, but the next time that he does something, showcases something, the other team's gonna think, oh, here we go, there he is.
Yep.
And they're gonna tense up and get nervous.
Yeah.
So
right,
as long as we can do just enough to stay ahead, maintain the lead, get within striking distance, keep other teams from having the ball. The game pretty much started with the Bengals having the ball for 25 minutes and the Chiefs having the ball for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So then like
it was like
completely switching,
flipped,
and then by the end it looks like they had the same amount. But if you go off the second half, the Bengals went 3 and out pretty much every drive except for 1 or 2, and then at the very end trying to move closer, and then they still
they
the
couldn't
defense
do it.
was like, okay, great, we get to just pin our ears back and go after you. We've been waiting for this. So
it was the defense show for sure.
Let's hope that this playoff run can last as long as it can, because the understated thing is that like this defense is going to change next season, and there's going to be players not on it, or coaches not on it, or some major changes that like the magic isn't going to quite be there.
Kind of like what happened with our offense. They're going to have to figure it out.
Well, and the defense is going to get worse because they're going to have to use more assets to make the offense better. You were hoping that like mediocre to average like offense could be enough with Mahomes, and maybe it's like we need the best of the best so that we can constantly put on the pressure to make teams think if they don't put up 35, then they don't got a shot. But that'll come to the detriment of the defense, making them have less resources to use and to make them worse in what you're asking them to do. So the way the team is right now, they're set up for success if they pound the rock, run the ball, milk the clock, all the
cliches,
phrases and sayings you could say, but it's true. And Pacheco did great this game, is bouncing out, finding a hole, and just angry running his way to the sideline, like avoiding
getting there, however, like in whatever way he gets there.
The
like
offensive line looked like they were ready to go. So if we can see that in the postseason, and then the big plays to the open wide receiver deep who will actually catch the ball, we can be set up for success. You can say that Travis isn't producing much, he's getting double teamed, getting beat up, whatever.
They've figured him out.
If he's getting double teamed, then he can be the ultimate decoy this season. That could
like
be
you said,
as well. If he's just a giant bulletin, like flashing board,
hey, I'm here,
to distract the other tight end on the field, Noah Gray, or the two running backs on the field are the ones who are going to eat that drive, or Rashid's going to eat, or whatever it is. It could be like momentous for this team in a way that they need it, and in a way that Travis could actually do right now, versus asking for magic to happen
every single time.
Flashback and say, be this version of you, and just assume that you're somehow going to get faster and healthier after 9 months of playing football instead of
the opposite.
So that's why this game coming up, which we're about to transition to, is a big talking point. So we already know that Patrick is not going to be playing this game. There's a lot of players on the injured reserve, like injury list right now. Some who have already not been on the active game rosters for the last couple weeks. Some of who are new, like a Travis, like a Chris Jones, some players like that. So maybe that's overly precautious in how much those injuries are and how many of those injuries are on there. But it still concerns you, especially knowing that a lot of those players want to play for their incentives in money for Chris Jones, or historical, like get some 1,000 yards as a rookie receiver, or as rusher for Andy Reid's offense, or Travis Kelce to go for, I believe, 8 straight years of 1,000 yards. That'd be the first time he's ever done that. And that's not even like a gimme, because we just saw in this previous game, it's not like they weren't trying to give it to Travis, and he didn't quite get 20 yards.
Exactly.
I mean, if this was a 50-yard need, it'd be like, he ain't getting that for sure, and you need him sit. But it's this 13-yard that you're like, oh, you could maybe, but how long?
How long is it gonna last?
Like Andy Reid's done this in the past. He's put in guys for literally like the first series or two of a game to get him the statistics they need. Kareem Hunt in 2017 for 1,000 yards, stuff like that. Like he's willing to do it, and like some of those players you don't want to negotiate like, oh, I'll just give you the incentive anyway without it. Like Travis, he would want 1,000 yards on paper that says he got it, not just the money in his contract that says he meant it. Chris Jones, he wants that number of sacks so he can hype up that he reached that amount, and not just, hey, I'll pay you the money because we agreed to it type thing. I think some of those are, pride more so than just monetary wants and record keeping stuff for the Hall of Fame voters.
Hall of Fame, yeah.
So
true.
So we've watched several games like this in the past. The very first game, in fact, that was like this was Mahomes' debut against Denver in a game that happens around or after New Year's. That doesn't matter because the Chiefs are playing who they're playing, at least where they're playing and what day in the playoffs. Don't know the exact opponent yet. We can speculate when we transition to our last segment. But it's another game. The outcome doesn't matter. The result doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is pride to some players and trying to get out of there without any injuries, without showing any additional things for the rest of the week, for the next weekends ahead of future opponents. So it's like a glorified preseason game happening at the end of the season. It's a game that has to take place, and you want it to just, it happens, and if it blinks and there was a final score and nothing else occurred in that game, you would be happy.
True.
But, that's from our perspective.
Yeah.
I wonder how you feel if you are Chris Jones and you want that.
No, you want those,
incentive. If you're Travis and you want that sub 20 yards.
I'd be competitive and want to do it. So, I don't know.
But then also your competitive nature can come back to bite you because you over assume your worth, your ability, your health, your all that other stuff. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I know a lot of the casual fans will kind of dip out by this point, and when they hear there's no Patrick Mahomes,
people are just gonna.
But I know a lot of people, especially those who gravitate in our community or fellow watchers or participants of our shows, we love watching the quote no-name players because back in the day that was all we had because the players on the field weren't producing so much, so it was like the who could be the next star but just needs a little bit of extra preparation.
They just need an extra push.
Just let them sit down and learn instead of being thrown in the fire. Mahomes, you could argue how good 2018 would be if he didn't sit majority of all 17 and got the chance to, play a bit in a game that still doesn't matter, but to still go out there and gain some confidence like he belongs in the NFL and playing against actual NFL talent. So I hope a lot of the Chargers defense plays so that the offensive weapons and the offensive line who are still playing this game can feel that tension a little bit more. And because if you're those position groups, I don't think you want to go into a game cold on rest and stuff like that. Mahomes, you definitely want him to sit and rest up and get healthy. Travis, you'd like to, but if he doesn't get he's got to get, he wants his incentives, so it depends on how long he's got to play to get that. But he would want to sit down. Chris Jones would want to sit down. Jarius Need, a Kadarius Toney who's always feeling injured no matter how much he plays. McCole Harbin, players like that, you don't want them to get hurt, but you understand that they can't go into the postseason without having some effort, some energy usage this week, because going in completely cold puts them at risk of like falling in that hole that they can't work their way back out from. So especially the offense, the receivers and the offensive line, once the postseason starts, they can't afford to start slow.
Yeah.
We need like a score on nearly every drive.
And
we don't care if it's a field goal, because we have faith enough in the defense that by the time the fourth quarter, they've either made it close or kept us in the game, or kept us with the lead, or gave us a ball back, or whatever it is. Like, we can rely on this defense if you give them enough tries and you give them the right situation. And Andy Reid's been like that before. He loves to have his defense in a position to be on the field trying to close out and win, like hold the game and win it. And now is a season where we're like, yes, that is exactly what we do want, instead of the try to go down the field in 13 seconds, a minute, and try not to make a mistake that whole time. That's what would give us kind of concern levels. But let's try to stay positive, try to stay optimistic. We don't know for sure who will or won't play against the Chargers, but here's hoping whoever needs something to achieve something, get it quickly, first drive or two, and then space out and be ready to celebrate when you hear a name that you didn't get to hear all season who makes a play. A defender you don't know the name of, or people like us who do know, because we nerds like that, or Justin Ross doing something, or a backup offensive lineman making a pancake block or something like that. Like, it's still a game. You'd still like the win because of the record, but of course, the outcome itself doesn't matter. But as long as the team looks competitive with both the first string minus Mahomes and whoever and the backups, we can watch the rest of the week, watch Sunday night's game, and figure out who our opponent is that first week. And
I'm interested to see.
Believe that we have a good shot of winning outright or pulling it off, depending on who we end up playing.
Depending on what happens.
So
who will play.
So that being said, our final topic of the afternoon is, have the Chiefs dealt themselves a good hand, knowing that they play in Wild Card Weekend? They didn't in 2022 into 2023 last year, and they were able to win the Super Bowl. They had a wild card in 2021, and they lost to the Bengals in the championship game.
Right.
And the years before that, they were not in the wild card. So this is the first time where, barring the 2 seed, which is going to be either Buffalo if they win their game, or Miami if they win their game, that's going to be the team that we're going to have to go on the road and finally play a road playoff game against. The loser of that game is most likely coming to Arrowhead. So it might be Miami loses on Sunday night, and they're who traveled to Arrowhead and plays the Chiefs in that first wild card game. And then, barring whatever happens after that, would mean the Chiefs would go to Buffalo to play the division game after that. But maybe as it stands right now, that's asking Buffalo to come to Arrowhead this first matchup, and then going to Miami the second matchup instead.
Mm.
So they're going to have to go on the road no matter what. And if Baltimore continues to win throughout the playoffs, they're going on the road for sure for that game. So barring anything happening, which it has happened before, the Chiefs in 2021 hosted a playoff game when they weren't the highest overall seed that whole year. In 2019, they hosted the championship game, even though they weren't the highest seed in that year either.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but based on what we've seen, like hoping things like continue to work out for the Chiefs hasn't necessarily gone in our favor. So we're going to be most likely facing one of those AFC East teams, or perhaps one of the AFC South teams who don't win the division. So Houston or an Indianapolis, which they've had good quarterback play. So it's like any other matchup. That if the Chiefs play bad, you're nervous. And if the Chiefs play well, you shouldn't be nervous at all.
Yeah.
But it'll be a toss-up who they end up playing. Obviously, some losses messed them up. They're not in the easiest or the best situation they could be. But I think they can still manage. They can still manage how they get around this.
Yeah.
And not have some questions until towards the end of that run. But I don't want to be super nervous for this first wild card matchup, but I think depending on who the AFC East team is, you might have a point or a reason to. I think my predictions, or whatever you want to call it to this point, has Buffalo winning against Miami. So Miami has to come here, and Tyreek is always going to be a little scary and deadly in a storyline. But Miami is getting worse as a team and is losing players to injury.
Yeah, that's very true.
No matter what, until the Chiefs would play Baltimore, and that's only in a championship game scenario, the Chiefs are going to play a team that they've already played against. And I already mentioned earlier this show that the team hasn't done well against playing a team they've already played against once.
Yeah.
So hoping that trend is bucked, because no matter what, unless it's this, if it's the Steelers or the AFC South team, it's fine. It's the first time the Chiefs are playing. But at some point, the Chiefs are most likely playing one of those AFC East teams.
Yeah.
And they've already played them before. Buffalo caught us and beat us, and we were able to hold on to the very last second to beat Miami. So no matter what, those are both close games.
Very close, yeah.
So if Christmas, or if New Year's Eve is going to be like some optimistic feelings for how the playoffs could go, that they could hold out against a team for long enough if they give their defense enough tries at them and the offense enough attempts at scores, that you think they can win at least game one, and then when they go on the road, it might make you think a little differently. But we can't truly be like confident yet until I know who the opponent is. And of course, we'll be back next week before the actual game itself, when the official matchup and the date and the time and all that is
set,
scheduled and official. But with this just being speculation of the kind of teams that the Chiefs could play, like if they play a good enough game like Bengals, they can beat a team like that. And if they play as bad as they did like against the Raiders, they could lose in the playoffs just like that.
Exactly.
Like, no,
could go either way.
And somewhere in between might be like just enough to hold on, or the other team did just enough to hold on to win instead.
Yeah, it's going to be very close.
Every game in the playoffs is,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's not because we felt like this team was blowing them out.
Yeah.
The defense has not like been turnover heavy or like touchdown scoring and point scoring on their own. We could feel really, really good this postseason if we would see like a defensive score happen in a game, the way that we just saw two happen against the Chiefs on Christmas.
Yep.
If we could get like one of those a game returned back to us in karma in some fashion, you could be like pretty confident. And if the team still couldn't like overcome that mistake that the other team made, it's because they couldn't help but make several of their own.
Yeah.
The Chiefs made a colossal mistake and still beat the Bengals, but the Chiefs made 2 back-to-back colossal mistakes against the Raiders and couldn't overcome that one. So I guess basically what I'm saying is if bad stuff is going to happen, don't let it pile on.
Exactly.
Let the bad thing happen to you. Let it move on. And believe that you can bypass it and find the next good thing to stack on top of it, and stop stacking bad on bad on bad. Don't make bad become worse, become
way worse,
unavoidable.
Yeah.
So this team has the power and the like confidence to make a postseason run. It'll be up to the team and the coaching staff to hold everybody accountable and put it together for the big run when it has to happen. So, of course, this Chargers game isn't much to discuss, but we will be there for that after the game to break down what that game meant, and whoever got whatever they needed to feel good about themselves for the Chargers game. And then most likely there will be some additional content during the week hyping up the playoff matchup itself. So after Sunday, sometime Monday or within that ballpark, we'll be hearing from the crew again, basically breaking down the playoff matchups for all the teams and what the Chiefs' path to the Super Bowl could look like the rest of the season. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify, on Facebook, on all the social media sites possible. Really, really like hearing you, talking to you guys, hearing what you have to say. It's really good hearing all different kinds of opinions. No matter how ridiculous. It's a great community to be in. Hoping to be able to boost up even more, get people excited about what we're excited about. I know it's infectious on us, so I'm sure it's working its way through other people as well.
Yeah.
If you guys are looking for some additional content, over here you can find the link for the Chiefin podcast that just came out basically yesterday night, as this episode comes out in the afternoon. So if you want to listen to them because you didn't already and want to follow us with them, you can go ahead and check them out here. I also made a breakdown video, which is already linked earlier this episode. But now we've got nothing but the postseason ahead. We've got the post-game show for Week 18. So even though that game doesn't matter and the record and score and all that, we'll be there. And we'll probably end that show kind of predicting what the potential matchup is now that a couple other games occurred, and the Buffalo and Miami game is for sure kicking off. So, like I said, we're gonna come back after that game is officially marked, and get the playoff picture ready for you guys, because we're gonna be excited to break down the playoffs. Whether the Chiefs are in it the entire time or not, we're gonna be eagerly watching the games just as everybody else is.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts before we close for this afternoon?
I'm just interested to see kind of what happens with everyone and all the teams and who we're going to play, and yeah, I'm nervous but excited.
Yeah. So this game doesn't mean much on Sunday, but it'll be a week-long wait to find out who the matchup and the date on the calendar is for that game.
Yeah.
We're going to be there, and we're going to be cheering, trying to make sure the defense gives up 0 points and that the offense doesn't make too many mistakes to overcome the defense's great performance.
Cheering loud.
So thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your week. God bless you all. As always, go
Cheers.
Thanks for checking out this update straight from the heart of Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate your passion, so please leave a like and follow us wherever you tune in from. See you next tailgate, your trusted source for all things Chiefs, Red Kingdom.